welcome back. Hopefully everyone's doing good. Looper Norris here, back with another reaction video, album reaction, another episode. Today we're gonna do Los Angeles by Blu and Evidence. Evidence, I know he produces also. He's actually responsible for producing this album, Los Angeles. Also, Felipe Wise, that's another producer that worked on this album. Blu is from Los Angeles, California. He's a long time legendary Los Angeles, or you can even say a California rapper, repping the West Coast for a long time now. I think he's in his mid-40s. He's one of the first rappers that I got into, getting into hip-hop. He was one of those first rappers that I started listening to and learning from, definitely learning from him. He is known for working with Exile. If you never heard Blu before, which I'm expecting most of you guys probably don't know who Blu is, just because he's very underground, like extremely underground rapper, under a major label most of his career. I think he still is under a major label. He's been underground basically since the beginning of his rap career, so a lot of you guys probably never heard of him. This video is like the first time you hearing about him, which is pretty cool, because then I'm putting you on to another rapper. You should definitely look into his discography. Same with Evidence. He's another rapper slash producer that's been doing it for a very long time, mostly known in the underground scene. They're both from Los Angeles, California, so this album works perfectly. Evidence is the main producer throughout the album, so 13 tracks altogether. I already gone through the album just like I usually do with this segment. We're about to get right into the snippets of the songs. I'll play a little bit of maybe like 3 or 4 songs, maybe about 5 to 10 seconds of it, so that you guys got a good idea of how it sounds before I start talking about it. Should be a good one, because this is one of my favorite rappers growing up, Blu. I'm about to play a couple of the songs off the album, just a snippet of it to give you guys an idea of how this one sounds like. This is a very underground style of an album, so it's going to be very different from what most people are hearing from the hip-hop world. This is going to be very different from what you're used to hearing from those type of rappers. So, well, I'll start off with the track Los Angeles. So this one's featuring Nana.
As soon as you reach the top of the rock, came cops raid, ox rock the high top, fade. Now we got braids trying to shake the spot like Dalmatians that's not sprayed.
Alright, this one is LA Taurus featuring MED.
The Benz was black, and the bitch in the back, and it was black. Back to business, stacking billions, back to back, to win the rap about the brilliance you lack. Matter of fact, I took
this one's The Cold.
Cause I hated eating cheese toast. Growing up, we was poor, so we was holding up the grocery stores with the ski mask and the 44. Me and my cousin share my only coat. Good thing it's hot in LA, cause most folks don't think.
This one is Heaven featuring CS Armstrong.
If you survive, you live life. Tired as hell, life is hell, homie, and it ain't nothing like heaven. Nothing like heaven. Everybody wanna go, it's the place to be.
So this is very new album, but it kind of holds that like old sound, kind of like the hip-hop that you were getting between, I'll say, 2015 and 2010. It kind of gives you that vibe, kind of gives you like a retro style of hip-hop most throughout the album, which I like a lot. Blu is a legendary rapper though. A lot of you guys, I'm assuming, never heard of him. And I don't think, I accidentally didn't put him on my 104 list. You probably, if you're going through my list, you probably won't see his name. And then I made another video, put him in the honorable mentions, but he's much more than that. I think I just forgot to put him on the list for some weird reason. Really strange, because he's one of the first rappers that I started getting into and actually learned from. Like, he's one of the first rappers that sort of taught me how to rap, including MF Doom. He was another one up there. Ghostface Killah. He would probably be in like the top 20, around that range, because this guy is an excellent lyricist. Basically, he's very strong in all aspects of like what a rapper means, right? Like all the attributes that comes with being a rapper. He's A+ at all of those attributes when it comes to flow, when it comes to his style, choice of words, vocabulary is pretty strong. He has a very wide range of words that he can pick out and use. Very intelligent rapper, you know what I mean? Overall, very smart. He's in his mid-40s now, so he's got some wisdom on top of it. Before listening to the album, I'm definitely definitely not surprised about how strong the lyricism is. Once again, he's very underground, so if you never heard of him, you should definitely look up his discography, listen to it, because he's one of the best rappers you'll ever hear. Evidence is more of a producer, I feel. His rapping is pretty good too, but definitely not on Blu's level, and he's the producer of this album. And I'm gonna get into the beats too. I really enjoyed this album, man, because it gave me that sort of retro hip-hop sound. Blu comes from this style of hip-hop. He comes from this world of hip-hop, closer to the 90s rather than the 2000s. I'm pretty sure he started his career in the early 90s. I could be like wrong about that. It might have been the early 2000s. This album is really good. I'll start off with the production. I think Evidence did a really strong job on making the beats for this. He used a very old school style of beat making, very sample driven beats, where he's taken the main sample that he's chopping and basically working his beat around that main sample that he chops, and kind of like relying on the loop to drive the beat. And then he puts his drums, his 808s on top, and everything sounds pretty clean. So it's like a very high level of that style of beat making. And I'll say a high level just because of the equipment he's using to make those beats, to process those beats. He's probably using live instruments, or I should say live drums, to put the beats together, and everything else might be digital. When it comes to sampling, he's definitely A level at sampling, especially on this album. Probably one of the best sampling jobs I've heard out of a hip-hop album in a long time, actually. His style reminds me of Exile's style, which is probably what he's known for working with. Out of every rapper or producer he's worked with, he's probably mostly known for working with Exile. The beats on here remind me of Exile's style a little bit, kind of like Jay Dilla's style, the way he sampled on this album, which is really cool. You know what I mean? Jay Dilla is basically the greatest producer of all time to me. Like, I have Madlib and Jay Dilla tied at 1. The album's getting a really high rating just for that by itself. Now, when it comes to the rapping, I think Blu and Evidence did a good job themselves with their own work, with their verses. Blu's rapping on this a lot more than Evidence, because Evidence is more of a producer. Blu's rap style, his rap style is very strong. I won't say distinctive, because honestly the style of how he raps is actually more on the generic side rather than the distinctive side, because like his rapping style sounds very similar to a lot of other rappers. You can compare him to other rappers very easily. That's the only thing about Blu that I never really liked. I didn't like how generic his rapping style has been most of his career. It's not simple, but he kind of keeps it simple. It's sort of like the same rhythm and pattern every time, and he'll switch it up just based off the like the verse and like how he writes, but the flow for the most part is pretty similar. He kind of just sticks to that. He doesn't really dip into singing / rapping too much. He kind of just keeps it simple and just gives bars. That's what he really does on this album, but at a high level though. It's at a level that you can really appreciate. You can really hear in his voice that he's given his all on every track, and that's another reason why Blu's one of my favorite rappers growing up. You can hear the effort that he puts on every track, no matter what. He's never lazy with it. So you can hear how passionate he is about his city. You can just hear it in his voice, you know what I mean? And that stands out more than what he's actually saying in his verses. And he's always been that type of rapper. I wouldn't say his style is distinctive at all. Like, he's not like Lupe Fiasco or Eminem, where you're listening to him rap and it's like a style that you've never heard before. And if you did hear it before, those rappers are copying that rapper, you know what I mean? Blu doesn't really have that. In my opinion, I think he sounds like a lot of other rappers. So that's the only thing I don't really like about him as a rapper. It's probably the one thing I don't like about the album. The style of rapping isn't very different from like what I've heard in the past. They kept it very simple when it came to like the type of bars they want to drop and the styles and the flows and the syllable speed, and just everything is very like retro hip-hop in a sense, you know what I mean? They didn't take any chances to try anything different. Not a whole lot of singing. I mean, there is singing in it, but it's mostly for the hooks, and I'm pretty sure Blu can sing just a bit, but he doesn't do it at all on this album. So Evidence's part is pretty good too. Blu's a better rapper. That's why he probably got Blu to rap on here more. When Evidence is rapping on here, when you're hearing him rap, he's definitely giving bars too. Definitely doing his best to keep up at the same level as Blu when it comes to like lyrics and rapping, straight up rapping. I think the raps and the beats are basically at the same level. Nothing outdoes the other. It's very very leveled, and the chemistry between Evidence and Blu is pretty crazy too. Well, I mean, they're both from Los Angeles, so they probably worked with each other before. Their chemistry is like ridiculous on here. I think the beats are perfect for what Blu brings to the table. His style of rapping, it works perfectly with the style of beats that Evidence provides on this album. Just the chemistry itself makes me like the album a lot more too. It's a very well put together album, you know what I mean? It doesn't sound like a mixtape. It doesn't sound like they just slapped a bunch of tracks together and then, you know what I mean, called it an album when it's really just like a mixtape. I gotta give them credit for that. I enjoyed the album. It reminded me of like old school hip hop just a bit, which is really cool. Like whenever I come across an album like that, I'm always gonna like that, you know what I mean? Like I come from old school hip hop. That's the first kind of hip hop I started listening to. So yeah, man, these are just two rappers, two legendary rappers that's been doing it for a long time, man. Evidence, he's actually a member of Dilated Peoples, which is like a super legendary hip-hop group. Evidence is just, he's been in the game for a long time. Blu has been in the game for a long time. So I don't know, it's got a very chill vibe to it, you know? Like it doesn't sound like they're going for a classic. It doesn't sound like they're trying to make this the best album of the year or anything like that. I feel like they want this style of hip-hop to be reintroduced into the world so that hip-hop fans got like a variety of styles to listen to instead of just getting the same thing over and over again. I think they did a very strong job at just doing that. It's gonna get more plays and views over time being such an underground style album rather than just trapping. But in terms of a rating, I'm gonna give this one an 8.8 out of 10. I had to think about it for a minute. I'm not gonna lie, man. It took me a minute to stand by a rating, to give an official rating, but I think 8.8 is good. I didn't want to go over a 9 just because I don't think they were going for that. It's not an album that's gonna like change your perspective of how hip-hop's supposed to sound like. You know what I mean? It's not doing anything like that. That's why I thought it was good to keep it under a 9. It's very old school hip-hop. They didn't take too many chances in terms of like maybe bringing in other styles of genres or other styles of like beat making. They kept it old school hip-hop, straight sampling, looping, you know what I'm saying? How hip-hop kind of started. They kept it like that. For that reason, gotta give it an 8.8 out of 10. At the same time, it's definitely over an 8.5 just because of how strong the lyrics were, how well the beats were made, and how strong the chemistry was between Evidence and Blu. The beats and what Blu brings in terms of raps, how they were able to stick to the topic the whole way. The album being called Los Angeles, and you listen to the music, it represents the title and the cover almost perfectly. So for that reason, it's definitely over an 8.5. 8.8 out of 10. I think that's the perfect rating for this one. Los Angeles, Blu and Evidence. Every time I say that, I almost say Blu and Exile because, right, like, yeah. Blu and Evidence, man. Make sure you guys check out this album. I think hip-hop has been on a tear this year. This has been the year of hip-hop, bro. Like, hopefully this continues on into the next year and the next year, man. Hopefully hip-hop stays on top in terms of genres. That's another episode. Once again, I'm Looper Norris. Really appreciate you guys watching this video, all my other videos and content. Really appreciate you guys, man. You're motivating me to work harder and to continue to put out videos, try to like make them better as I go, try to learn more and all of that. The next song that I'm dropping, that one's a couple of days actually from now. That one's gonna be on Wednesday. This one's called Dragon Propane, 12 o'clock on the dot, the 24th. So make sure you guys check that out. I'll have it on my YouTube channel. Every other platform where I put my music, you'll be able to find it. Make sure you guys subscribe, like the video, comment. Let me know if I'm crazy for giving this album an 8.8. If it should have been higher, lower, let me know down below. Once again, I'm Looper Norris. Plenty of content, more videos to come, man. Yeah, man, that's all I got, man. I'm out of here. Peace.